I'm a Radiant Sentinel main, and today I'm going to teach you guys all the Cypher technology you need for Breeze. So this is going to be all the A site setups, all the B site setups, where to put your trips, where to put your cages, so you guys will be able to dominate the competition. Here are the 6 deadliest trips to get you the most amount of kills on the B site. First trip right here, you want to line up, and you want to put your crosshair to the right as much as you can before it hits this wall. So when it hits this wall like this, you bring it back just a little bit, so then it sticks over here. And this is what everyone calls a one-way trip, where the enemies basically cannot break this trip unless they walk into it to break it. Really strong trip. The only way they're going to be able to break it is with a shock dart or a raise grenade or something like that. And the second trip I like to run, and this one gets me the most amount of kills, and I use this one probably the most, is you can just throw this one anywhere right here along this line. And this gets 1 to 2 kills almost every single time they run into the B site. Third trip I like to run is right here, because some idiot, every single time they run into the B site, they always path into this corner. They're just so desperate to sit in this corner, and I'll admit it, I like to sit in that corner too. So this trip, free kills. Well, Cam, where do you play off of all these trips? So these 3 trips are really good for playing over here, because the moment they throw a Viper wall up, you can just shift walk out behind the Viper wall, and it's free picks for all of these trips. They'll always be in kind of range of you to be able to spam them through any smokes that are coming through here. And these next 3 trips, you're probably gonna have to play in sight to get kills off of. And these next 3 trips are like this. First trip goes right up here on this wall, right on the corner. And I like to throw it higher up like this. And when I play this specific trip, I like to throw a cage right here, and this is a really strong cage to throw when the enemies are running in this site completely, because then they're going to be scared to run up and plant the bomb. They're going to be kind of scared to rush through this cage and fight, so it adds a lot of delay. And a lot of the time Cypher players will sit right here, and the second they hear jet dash, they'll pop this and then they'll try to kill the jet who just dashed into that cage, or they'll just wait for the person to get hit by that trip and then pop the cage, and they'll have a hard time seeing you or being able to break that trip, right? And it's super good. This next trip is they're kind of like shooting shock darts over here and breaking those 2 trips, is I'll throw this one even deeper in sight for the person trying to run up and plant the spike, because everyone's going to run up and plant here, so you'll be able to get a kill off that. And where I like to play off of this trip, or even the second trip up here on the wall, is you can legitimately sit right here, and the second those trip goes off, free spam kills. You're gonna have to hit them like 2 to 3 times in the head, but they won't even be able to shoot you back, so they'll have no idea where you are. And I absolutely love doing that to people, and people get really tilted. You can even buy an Odin if you want to be real cringe. But the next trip I like to do when I play backside is I'll do the trip right here, and I like to make sure this trip ends right at the edge. So like right here. So the trip ends right here. And the reason why I do this trip like this is if you run in this site, you're going to be looking here, right? And when you run up, you'll be able to see any trips along this wall really easy, and you probably won't get hit by them, right? But if you do the trip to the left and off to the right here, it's a little bit harder for them to see, and you can kind of play the cage here and the cage here, and when the enemies run in, boom boom, when the people run elbow, they'll get hit by that trip, you can pick them off. The other person get hit by that trip, you can pick them off. In both ways will stall, so if one goes before the other, you can use the one to stall people from peeking that way while you try to kill the guy through the wall. Really helpful. And almost every time I play this site, I do my camera right up here, and the reason I do that is because it's East Tunnel, and a lot of the time people will just instantly rotate off of B and off of mid the second there's noise A, so this allows you to be able to prevent anyone from lurking up tunnel on you and past your util, or even up into nest. There's a reason why I didn't show you guys like specific setups. Instead, I just showed you all the different trips, because you have to adapt based on how the enemy team is going to play this, right? If they have a jet who updrafts and dashes over this first trip every time, or a Sova who shock darts his first trip, it's not going to be useful. You're not going to want to use it, right? So you're going to want to use this trip, or maybe they're shock darting over here because they ran into this trip once and they're not going to do it again. So they'll tell, hey Sova, can you shock dart here this time? And this trip will get broken, right? So as a Cypher, the second you get a kill with any of these trips, you need to rotate to a different trip. You need to be constantly rotating in between these trips, playing half wall, playing back sight. And this is what's going to allow you to be an annoying Cypher, to get those 30 kill Cypher games on Breeze. If you just keep doing the same stuff over and over again, the enemies are going to catch on, they're going to break it, and you're going to get no value. An added bonus, if you guys want to be real cringe, you can throw these cages before the round starts. You line up in this corner right here, just hold W until you get in, and you can just aim your crosshair right up here. So like it's a few bricks up, and you just kind of give this a throw on the cage, and it'll land up there. You can see kind of where I'm going with this one, and you can line up in the same exact spot for the other one, but this one's a little bit different. You got to aim a little bit off to the right over here, and that'll land on top of the grass. And when they're running in, you can kind of pop both of these cages, and it's a one-way from like everywhere, or you can decide you just want to play off of just the one, and you can kind of come play this corner right here. So like you won't be exposed to the people, but you'll still be able to see feet when they run in. So you can do either of those. But one main thing you guys got to make sure you have when you're playing Cypher on this is almost always have like one cage in the doorway. And this will kind of help the enemies not trade out the first guy, second guy, third guy who runs in with this cage here. People like choke up in the doorway. So a lot of the times make sure you guys have this cage here because it'll help you isolate the people in sight and try to kill them before the people in main run in. Before I show you guys the A site setups, here's a quick reminder that if you guys are enjoying this video or if you guys have learned anything, to please subscribe. And soon I'm going to be posting a Cypher guide for buying as well. So if you're really interested in that, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss it. Now I'm going to show you guys all the different trips I like to run. First one, I like to start by putting on the top of the second brick right here. You can see this gets a huge distance and it'll catch people running in. Second trip I like to run is this one right here. And you want to put it up this crack as best as you can before the barrier stops it from going off. So right here. All right, now let me drop the barrier. And the third trip I like to run is this one right here. And this trip gets a lot of value for the person running up to try to plant the spike. You'll catch a lot of people with this trip. Another trip I like to run is this one that's on the side of the brick pile here, because oftentimes people will try to run up and swing through their own Viper wall to try to like get a pick or something and stop your teammates from rotating through mid doors. So this trip catches a good amount of people lacking. And another trip I like to run is this one, which is a lot further back right here. So even if they run up and break this first trip, this second trip will catch the other people who are flooding in this way, because everyone knows on Breeze this Viper wall goes through the whole site, right? So you're just kind of flooded into this back corner. So this trip oftentimes will catch someone lacking. The very last trip I like to run on the A site is this trip, and this is one of the best trips on this map. What you want to do is you want to crouch and you want to make sure this laser goes through your eye like this, right? So that means they can't jump over it when the laser goes through your eye. So now when people are running up mid doors, this trip will just trip them up every time and you can get a free kill. And I like to play right here off this trip, and I will just spam you like this off that trip, and they just won't even be able to see you, and you'll be able to get a free kill on the people running through the door. So a lot of you guys are going to be like, yo, Cam, how do you play off of these trips? I'm going to show you guys. Oftentimes, I like to sit right here, and most of these trips are all visible from this spot right here. So you'll be able to pick people off for free on all of these different trips. And sometimes I'll even play the middle right here and try to get a kill off this brick trip by sitting in the middle, because people aren't going to be expecting that. For these trips that are more on the left side, what I like to do is I'll throw a cage here, or sometimes even two. And when they start running in, I'll pop this cage here and I'll just sit behind this cage and I'll try to take a fight on the people getting hit by any of the trips that I set up. And to go with all these different trips, here's the cam. I like to put this camera right up here almost every single time, because this camera sees all of people walking up the mid doors area, and it sees people walking in, even though you can't tag them because you can't move any more to the right. Be able to get all the info and ping on the minimap all these people running in, and this sees over the Viper wall. So you'll be able to get all the information in the world for your team. Just like the B site, here's all the trips you guys can use, but you have to be smart on which ones you pick and for what situation. So if this first brick trip hits somebody and you get a kill off of it one round, don't put it down again. They're going to start shock darting it. They're going to start running up and breaking it, right? So just make sure you're using a constant variety of any of these trips here. So if they don't go mid at all, don't put that mid trip down. You don't need to. It's a waste of a trip. But if they constantly keep going mid or splitting mid doors, that trip will save your life so many times. A lot of people struggle with attacking with Cypher on Breeze because of all the different lanes and all the different ways people can flank. And a lot of people ask me, how do I do it? So I'm going to give you guys the best pieces of advice I have for being a good Cypher player on attack. Starting with like how to hold the flank on the A side, it's actually more complicated than you think it is. People usually just throw this trip down right here, but now they opened up this hallway, so people have shifted down this hallway and shot people in the back at A while you're trying to plant and fight. Well, you're like, well, Cam, just throw a trip down here. When you play the A site, no one plays all in sight. There's not enough room for everyone to play site. Bricks right here, those are the only two positions you can play. So a lot of people end up staying main. And if you have this trip here, people would just walk up and just kill these people. So the flank really isn't covered at that point, right? So when you play Cypher on Breeze and you want to hold the flank, you have to use your trips, your cam, and your personal body wherever you were standing to hold the flank. So what I would do is I would put this trip down here, and then I would go play halls for a little bit. I would go run up halls and peek this, right? And make sure no one's walking down. And you could even run up and throw a cage right there on a jiggle peek, so that way you don't get killed. And now they're scared of halls. And you can run up, throw another cage on the doorway. pop this door open and run back. So now the enemies on the A side are going to be scared of you, and now they can't flank behind that way through A main, and now they can't flank through halls either. Okay, you guys are following me? Holding the flank on the B side is complicated as well. So let's say you throw one trip down elbow and then you leave that other A trip over here up, but now that leaves mid. Someone can walk down mid, come up over here like this, and you shoot your whole team in the back while you're trying to plant the bomb, and they'll get 3 kills and you'll lose the round. That's why when I like to play mid, I almost always throw this camera every single round, because you get all the information in the universe to where these people are playing, right? So if the enemy team starts the round off and they start shift walking down mid to try to get down into this cubby like this, your camera catches them. Be able to see them right away. And now this stops anyone from flanking, because you have a whole like 10 seconds or 15 seconds of someone shift walking through this area to catch them on the cam. So that'll be good. And now you have info for mid round. You'll be able to catch people trying to walk down or fight or go even flank A. You'll be able to catch people running down mid to go flank A. So it's really useful to deter people from flanking, and it gives you a lot of information. And along with this camera, oftentimes I like to run up mid and I'll throw this cage right here, so that way the people who are tunnel and nest are like scared. They're like, yo, they threw the cage cross, so they can cross into mid doors. So that's gonna scare the A players and apply a lot more pressure there. And you can even throw that cage and actually have you and your Reyna run through mid doors while your Sova, Jet, and Viper are running through A main, right? Or however, whatever you want to run that combo as. So it's really good for splitting mid. There's more you can do with your utility than just AFK throwing your trips down. And a lot of the times on this map, you kind of have to hit like a masterclass lurk. Sometimes you walk up halls late in the round. Sometimes you walk up elbow late in the round. Sometimes you walk up B main and look for a pick over there. Sometimes you're just sitting in a corner mid the entire round while your teammate goes A. Now you gotta hope your teammate successfully plants, but now you got the people running through mid doors. You can catch people jumping up here, right? Just be slow and methodical with your lurks, and make sure you're doing something different every single round. And make sure whatever you're doing with your trips and your camera and wherever you are, that people cannot flank your teammates without them at least knowing beforehand. I know that was a lot of information, but thank you guys for watching this video. I play Cypher on Breeze, Bind, and Sunset. So if you guys want to see some Cypher gameplay live in the flesh, I stream every single day at around 11 a.m. Central Time on twitch.tv/CaMbCaMb. It'd mean the world to me if you guys come through, and if you have any questions, I'll be able to answer it right away. Thank you guys for watching. Have a brilliant day.